1st, which was great. So just so I have an idea, how many people either currently have students at Heritage or have in the past? Just a show of hands. Yes, I see familiar faces. And how many people attended the course info night? Okay, so I have added some information, so this won't be just a flat-out repeat, and I'm excited to get to talk to you all in a bit more of an intimate environment too. We're going to have time for questions and answers at the end, and just again hope to have you guys leave here feeling really well informed with what to expect. And we have some other opportunities coming up to help you with that transition to Heritage, so I'll make sure you know the dates for those as well. First of all, just every time I do this and look at that year, it's just a bit of a shock. So you all know that your students are class of 2022, right? So congratulations for making it this far. We're excited to have them at Heritage. You know, they just, our 9th grade classes always add so much to our Pride family, and we're excited to have them join us. You probably already know some of this information, but here are just some basics of our Heritage kind of leadership team there. Our principal, as you know, is Mr. Jeff Adam. He's an extremely visible and involved principal. We're just very fortunate to have him. He cares very deeply about the students, so if you have not seen him already, you will, since Mr. Adam. Our assistant principals, they are split by last name, and we have 3. And a fun fact is that we've had the exact same 3 assistant principals since Heritage opened, which is not the case for any other high school that's been around. And that, I feel, is really a tribute to just the environment at Heritage and the culture there. So Mr. Ross Armstrong is the assistant principal for students with the last names A through G. Ms. Kim Turner, students' last names H through N. And Mr. Adrian Powell, last names O through Z. I'm Suzanne Eichholtz. I'm the school counseling director. I was a counselor at Heritage before that, started in 2006. I have not moved from Heritage. I don't intend to move from Heritage. Again, it's just a wonderful place to work, and I feel like that is reflected in the classrooms from the teachers to the students. And our athletic director is Mr. Ryan Rogers, who was the assistant athletic director, and again, wanted to stay put. Here's another group of people who are very excited to welcome your students. This is the Heritage Counseling Department. It's a bit of a faux pas to wear the same thing that you're pictured in, but here I am. So these are some of the key players that are going to be helpful with that transition to high school, and really anything else you need along the way. So here we are. I've introduced myself. The counseling team is set up, it's designed so that your counselor will follow your student through all 4 years, barring any additional counselors to the staff, which is also a good thing because it means our ratios are lowered. But it's designed so that they follow you. We do it by last names. So each counselor has a mixed grade level caseload, and so you can just, hopefully that means that siblings will have the same counselor. So you can see who your counselor will be next year. For your student, Miss Megan Zawistowski has all students' last names A through C. Miss Barr, last names D through I. Mr. Jones, last names J through MI. Miss Brown, last names MJ through SC. And Mr. Elder, last names SD through Z. And we also have some wonderful people who help keep the place running. Miss Kathy Kelly is our full-time counseling secretary. Miss Betty Keener, our part-time counseling secretary. Miss Smart, our career center specialist, with whom we work very closely. Miss Gottlieb is our testing coordinator, and Miss Neldy Negron, whom you may recognize, as she's also at Harper Park as our parent liaison. So I've mentioned transition already a few times, and you may already be feeling that. The move from 8th grade to 9th grade is one that's just kind of full of changes on many fronts. The Harper Park environment here is, wonderfully set up for familiarity and comfort. Students move with their grade levels. That changes a bit, not the comfort and familiarity, but when they're in high school, they could very easily have mixed level classes with their world languages, with some of their electives. Their lunches are going to be mixed grade. And so they're moving around with different grade levels. They don't necessarily have classes with the people that they've grown up with anymore. And so there's that change. The level is now at a high school level of academic work expected, so there's that added challenge. And as you all know, they're also physically changing right now, which it adds a whole nother dimension So there's a lot going on. Sometimes friend groups will grow and develop, sometimes they will change. So you all are going to be seeing that at home. We see it as well, and hang in there, because those freshmen end up being just wonderfully developed and ready to go seniors. But we do see a lot of process over those 4 years. So things I want you to think about as you're kind of helping to guide your student on that transition. First of all, ups and downs are extremely normal. It's very typical for some bad days to be worked in there. For sometimes they're coming home and they're just high on life, and all of a sudden every friend is mad at them and social media comes into play. So that's pretty typical. What we want you all to kind of keep on your radar and be aware of is if those ups and downs get a bit more pronounced, if the downs seem to be lasting longer than the ups. And if the severity, maybe it's a short period of being down, but that severity is pretty drastic, that's when we want you all to give us a call at the counseling office to sit down and speak with your student. We are ready to support you in anything you need with that. We're going to ask you to look for changes in mood, changes in appetite, sleep habits, if you start seeing them lose any interest in outside activities. These are just those signs that will let you know, hey, this might be at a different level than just kind of your typical ups and downs. Give us a call. We have tons of resources in the counseling department as well as through the county, and we are there to help you kind of get through those. We also listed on our counseling webpage, we have some mental health resources, and a lot of this is proactive. This is with the goal of helping your students have the tools so that as they continue on in life, when they get those ups and downs, they feel prepared to handle them. So the county has also recognized the need for increased resources, and to that effect this year, all high schools had added to their staff a full-time school psychologist, a full-time school social worker, and our student assistance specialists had decreased load of schools that they carry. So we are very fortunate. Speaking of longevity, our school psychologist and school social worker have actually been members of the Heritage team since it opened, and now we get them full-time. Mr. Ben Fernandez is actually the lead psychologist in the county. Ms. Saunders is wonderful. So combined with the counselors, this is our mental health team. So we are chock full of resources and ready to go to support you all in anything you need. The counselors are still that main point of contact. They are the ones that deal with the students on anything that comes across. But we work really closely and collaborate with the other members of our mental health team. So you all have a big chunk of the power to establish a really healthy balance for your ninth graders. And that is right now. That opportunity is right now when they're picking their classes. Proactively picking a really balanced schedule is going to be one of the biggest things you can do to help set your student up for a smooth transition, for a successful and healthy and happy year at Heritage, and that's going to be each year. So we place a lot of emphasis on the course selection process. We want to partner with you all during that process. You have the benefit of also getting to partner with the middle school, so you're kind of sandwiched with support here. But you really want to think about this because it not only sets the tone for their academic success, but just their home life, their success, what that looks like for you all when they come home from school in that homework environment. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about finding that balance and really looking at the overall cumulative effect of the schedule that you're picking. So I encourage you to get pretty practical with this. I would encourage you to map out the week and see, with the schedule that you're selecting, what are the anticipated chunks of time you need to dedicate for each class cumulatively, and what's that going to look like for a weekly schedule? You're going to block out the time that you're at school, block out the time that you're eating dinner as a family, block out the time for activities that they enjoy other than academics. Please block out time for sleep. And then take a look at that realistic portion of what's left and see what that looks like. As you pick your classes, and I'm going to show you some resources later as well, we have worked really hard to try to make sure that it's either clearly stated you can expect this amount of homework for this class, and if not clearly stated, you can really tell from the description, so you have a good idea of how to plan for those courses. But as you see it mapped out, you all as the experts on your students are going to know, does this seem like a good fit for my student? You know, some kids can take a look at that schedule, mapped out to the minute, you know, all accelerated classes, and be like, yep, no problem, I'm still gonna get some sleep, I'm still gonna be happy, no problem, I got it. Other students, that would be an extremely stressful week, which means it's an extremely stressful home life for parents as well. So these are the kind of things we want you to realistically take a look at. And then also, one of the tougher things is that kind of courageous conversation of reassurance. The reassurance that, you know, in fact, not everybody is taking 7 accelerated classes. You know, not everybody is in 20 clubs. You know, not everybody has made varsity as a freshman or whatever it is for them at that point, because you all know social media puts it in their heads that everybody else has got it made, there's no stress, and that's just not the case. And so if you all can help us with kind of busting those myths and letting them know that the important thing is that they pick a schedule that is the best fit for them, and then their success and their future plans are going to lead naturally from that. And often they are healthier, happier, and honestly, if you're just being practical about it, your grades are better across the board. If you're really smart about that balance of accelerated classes, often those students who are not just completely strapped and overloaded see, you know, higher grades across the board. So things I want you guys to think about. I'm going to go into class specifics in a little bit. So what is the process for course selection? Some of this has already happened. Whether or not your kids came home and talked about it, in about the December, January timeframe, our department chairs communicated with the core teachers in 8th grade. They shared lessons, example of honors lessons, accelerated lessons as well, to work through that with your students here so that they can see a realistic example of what's this class going to look like. So that has happened. And that was one of those first steps, and the teachers also, you know, then completing the core course recommendations. We do that at Heritage. It's the first step in our process for course selection. That's also a piece here as well. Those were pushed out, I believe, to Student View for you all. And so that's the first piece. We would encourage you to consider those teacher recommendations. Those teachers have your students for, well, I'm so used to saying 90 minutes every day. I would think it would be approximately the same for you all. But they see them in that environment. We've worked really hard to make sure that our teachers are communicating with your teachers so there's a really good knowledge of what our courses are and what they can expect. So please pay attention to those teacher recommendations as kind of the first level of that process. Our counselors are coming over to Harbor Park next week. They're going to talk with your 8th graders. They are going to then help them pick their classes, cycle through everybody. So you've had a chance to kind of look at them. They're going to come and talk to them. They're going to pick them during the day. And then Miss Harper is here and available for any other kind of, okay, let's talk about this balance. What does this look like? What are your thoughts? Just that collaboration. That's going to take place with Miss Harper through the end of the year here. And then we do have some deadlines. We will then mail to all students, including our rising 9th graders, a letter that says, here's what your student has signed up for. And that's going to be the last week in May. So you can have kind of one final glance at, okay, how does this look? You know, and we set our deadline for when any changes need to come back to us so that it's a week after the last day of school. And that's so that you can get through the year, you can see how those courses really wrapped up, you can take a breath, talk about it as a family, you get another week to talk about it, and then any changes to those course requests need to come back to us using the form. There's a spot where you can make a change, sign it. They come back to Heritage, and they have to be back to us by June 20th. So that is your deadline. That's a really important date to remember. And we set that date because, you know, then we move into how do we support your students? You know, what are the resources that we have? We trust that you all have put a lot of thought and effort and conversation into your choices. So at that point, we're building our master schedule around them. We're implementing resources for support during the school day. And that's when we move to that mode. But just some tips in general of, you know, academic success in those classes. Use your agenda. Now, agenda is kind of like the locker at this point. I don't know if your students have talked to you about locker usage, but there are very few students at Heritage that are still using their locker. They have every opportunity to. They just, I think it's a comfort zone. They want to be able to talk to their friends during classes. Often they carry everything around, so they have super strong backs or painful backs. I don't know which. But the agenda is kind of similar to that. They have the opportunity to have a Heritage agenda. They can also use their own agenda. So we are recognizing that students are kind of forming their own process. Some of them use their phones for their, the note section, alarms, what have you. So, we recognize that, but whatever their system is, make sure that you are aware of it and that is a real active thing. They should be writing everything down. There is so much that goes on in their brains, so much that is expected of them. If they're not writing it down in one form or another, it's going to be really tough to remember what their responsibilities are. So using their agenda or whatever form of homework note-taking that they're using. We would encourage them to do their homework on the same day that it is assigned. That is the goal, that's the wish that gives them a chance to get ahead of the game, be able to come back the next class, ask questions. Often teachers will be very responsive to emails. Gives them a chance to look at it. If they're stuck on something, they can often email the teacher, and if they've done that in enough time, they can usually get back to them, talk about resources, maybe help them through it. So that just gives them a chance to not feel like each day they're scrambling to just finish what's due the next day. So encourage your student as much as possible to do their homework on the same day it's assigned. The teachers have a lot of their resources up online. They use their web pages, Vision, some have Google Classrooms. So a lot of times they'll refer to that. If your student is at home and thinking, gosh, I have no idea what that homework assignment was, often their notes posted. So that's a really good place to start. Ask questions. We recognize that this can be difficult, especially freshman year. I would encourage your child to do that. If they're not comfortable with that, have them write it down. Send that question to the teacher in an email. That's perfectly acceptable, but please encourage them to ask, because if they have the question, more than likely many of their peers do as well. Check student view for grades. We know you're doing it. We know the students are doing it. Please encourage that. Have that be a family discussion. Just so there's no surprises. They kind of know where they're doing. They can see what outstanding assignments might still be there. If they have any questions, they can address it with the teacher. So make sure you're up to date on that. Communicate with your teacher. Again, if they have questions, don't wait till the end of the quarter to ask. Have that conversation along the way. Build that collaborative relationship. Get involved and maintain a balance. The success that they have in the classroom is heavily influenced by just how healthy and happy they feel in general. So having that balance on purpose often attributes to even greater academic success. They get excited about going to school. If we can get them excited about going to school, we can work with them in that math class. We can work with them in that English class. So just having them get excited about school in general. Setting goals. They have a schedule of 7 courses. They have many projects, many assignments, helping them set those short-term and long-term goals so that then they can see their progress towards it. Kind of helps them see that finish line. And I talked about friend groups. You're going to kind of watch and see who your students are kind of gravitating to. As much as possible, encouraging those relationships. Now, you have to be smart about this as parents, because we all know that if you say anything, then they are not going to, take a look at that route. But just being aware of surrounding themselves with students with like-minded goals, and just encouraging that conversation of, kind of having that reflection of their own goals and the habits of those with whom they're surrounding themselves. So you've put all this time and process into your course selections, right? You made your choices. You feel like this is a good balance for my student. You come into Heritage, second quarter comes around, and that one class that you said, yeah, I'm going for it, that accelerated level, it is rough. So here's what you can expect from us at Heritage. Again, we put the importance on the course selection process, but even I would say more than that, we pride ourselves on the resources that we put in place during the school day for your students. So that is going to be the number one place that we turn if your student is struggling. We're going to help guide them towards that, help facilitate that. During our school day, if you're not aware, students have a study hall block. Every student has a study hall block. And the resources that are available every study hall, we have a math lab, which a math teacher is always present in for help. So they can go to the math lab during the school day and get support in their math class. We have a reading writing center, which is run by our English department, which is wonderful. They are willing to help your student with anything that involves reading and writing. So whether it's a science research paper, anything, they're a great resource for your students. We also have targeted reinforcement study halls. If we see kind of ahead of the game that students are maybe struggling to pass those a math SOL as they're coming into Heritage, we have opportunities for really targeted instruction and reinforcement as well. And then using your teacher and those resources that I mentioned as a resource. Our teachers are, if your student has a study hall and it happens to be the same time as a teacher's planning, it's a very, very normal thing for teachers to say, come see me. That's kind of just the culture. So number one, we're going to make sure that they're aware of what's out there. We're going to try to help facilitate the use of that. We're going to be in communication with you all. The counselor is a big part of this process. The teacher is a part, you're a part. And so first we're going to look to that and then have that good communication. If after all of that, we feel like, this is really not a good fit, you've done everything you can, we're taking a look at the situation, we need to change, and this is for a level change. Like say if you started in pre-AP world history, and it's, that is just not working out, then after all of this, then the administration would be involved and see if we need to really change back to maybe the academic level at that point. But that's what you can expect. It's not a quick process. It's not supposed to be, it's not designed to be, but I want you to know what to expect, know that we're going to first try to help support your student through the rigor that they've chosen. And just to be aware that, again, we plan our master schedule based on the course requests, so it might not be a lateral move, and by that I mean your student has pre-AP World History B5, there's going to be an academic with space B5. It might mean switching some classes. So just everything to kind of take into consideration. This is kind of hot off the press. The program of studies for this upcoming year has been a long time coming. Honestly, I'm not even sure if it's posted yet. I just took what they sent out to us in draft form, but they have just approved the diploma requirements for your students. We've been waiting for it to get the official blessing. You've got it. I think it's going to be great. There is a lessened SOL requirement for your students and for those that are younger. So sorry about you split families who have the older siblings. You're like, why wasn't this around when I was there? But our students have worked towards the requirements set in place for them, but it's changed a little bit, and I think that my hope is that will give us a little bit more room for creativity, for support, and maybe a little less pressure as we move towards graduation. So this is going to be a lot of words up on the screen, but when they do post that program of studies, you're going to be able to pull that up on the LCPS webpage, and we'll link to it as well for a resource. So anybody that has had a student go through Heritage in general, you know that you have your course requirements, which we call standard units of credit, and you have verified units of credit requirement, which means that not only are they passing the course, they're passing the associated SOL. So we have still those two types of requirements, but it's a bit streamlined now. So for the advanced studies, as well as the standard diploma, there's no reprieve in English. You're still going to have to pass those two English SOLs, and that's appropriate. Those SOLs don't come until your junior year. They are attached with the English 11 course, and they are designed to assess that you've mastered the levels in English 9, 10, and 11. You have one reading and one writing SOL, and that is going to come at the end of your junior year, because we want to make sure we have 3 years to prepare you for that. There's no way around it. You take those two SOLs, you pass them, you've checked off your English requirement for graduation. You need to have 4 units of English. Typically that's English 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I say 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, AP English Lang counts for the English 11 credit. So there's that variation there, but you need your 4 years of English. For math, with your students' new requirements, for the Advanced Studies Diploma and the Standard Diploma, you need 4 levels of math for the advanced, or course levels. But with these new requirements, you only need to pass one of those SOLs for the advanced and for the standard.
And that's what the verified means, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So those SOLs come with Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. That's designed because those are those first levels of the high school math courses. We want your students to get them out of the way. But it's a lightened load, so this is kind of a brave new world. Again, this is, just got published. So we're going to see what this plays out, but I think it'll be very positive. Question?
Are these course levels the same as in middle school? So for example, Algebra 1 in middle school, is that the equivalent of the Algebra 1?
If you took Algebra 1 in middle school, if your student did, they took a high school course. Absolutely. So yep, that's an Algebra 1 credit right there.
So, and in that sense, to whatever extent they've passed SOLs in middle school,
Yep.
that counts.
Yep.
Oh, that counts.
It counts.
Yes.
Because it's a high school course, you're just
Yep.
taking it in middle school, so any world languages as well, high school course.
Yes, high school courses that you can take in the middle school. If your student has taken Algebra 1, Geometry, any math above that, that's a high school credit. That's factoring into, that's the beginning of their high school GPA. That's on their transcript. The course is on their transcript. The final grade is on their transcript. If they pass that SOL, that counts towards graduation. World language credits are high school credits taken in a middle school as well. That stays on their transcript. That goes towards their GPA. So these courses are ones that are high school courses housed in the middle school. And we're going to talk about your options because of that with the expunge option after this. Question?
What is the difference between standard and verified?
So the standard credit is, think of it as the course. You pass the course. The verified means not only you pass the course, but you pass the SOL. So there are two options that you have to, two categories to complete. So for the advanced and the standard, math for the advanced, 4 credits, starting with Algebra 1. The standard is 3. For sciences, 4 credits, 4 course credits for the advanced, 3 for the standard. For history and social sciences, 4 credit for standard, for the advanced, 3 for standard. Now the SOL, the verified units of credit, it's now 1 with each of those categories. So you need to pass 1 SOL in science, 1 SOL in math, and 1 SOL in history or social sciences. And again, those opportunities, they're tied to the courses, and those courses that have the SOL options are the first ones in those sequence. So the hope is that your students get them out of the way early.
And when is that? For their senior year? Sorry.
Give me just a second,
Yeah.
and then I think,
The one required verified credit versus the 4 standard credits, how is that going to affect the end of the year? Because a lot of classes say it's required as well, but now it's not necessarily required.
So again, this is hot off the press, but those SOLs are still at this point attached with the classes. So the expectation that we have until they tell us otherwise is that if your student is in an SOL class, is what we call them, that they are sitting for that SOL at the end of the course, and we expect them to do their very best. Because even if they've checked off that box, some others may not have. And in general, we want to show that it's a reflection of mastery. So they're still going to take the tests at this point. If the county changes that, then we'll adjust. Your question?
Oh, that, you answered
Did I answer?
Is this a trend across the state of Virginia?
This is from Virginia.
This is from the state of Virginia,
Yeah.
so Fairfax
This
is
isn't
going to be
just
doing
Loudoun
the same
County.
thing. This is
Yeah.
going to be all throughout the state.
Yeah.
I have a question for those of us that have kids still there.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is major.
It is.
And there's no chance that they can grandfather this? I mean, that's so unfair. Like, I mean, really, you don't think there's any chance they're gonna change
I
that?
do not.
Yeah.
No, I don't make the decisions, but I
Yeah.
really don't, because they don't change things midstream. They always introduce things, as a cohort. If you think of the dual enrollment bump, if you have students at the upper level or you've heard the dual enrollment AP talk, the county has now increased the dual enrollment bump to 1.0, starting with our current sophomore. And they typically introduce any changes with a cohort so that, kids pick their classes based on the rules that are set out from the beginning. And changing that midstream is just not equitable. So that's.
What are they now for the advanced? It's like, what are the verifieds? Is
For
it
the
like
advanced
3,
now, so
3?
you can kind of get an idea of comparison. Yeah, for the advanced, you would need to have passed 2 verified credits for math, 2 science, 2 history, and then 1 other. So in one of those categories, you would have had to have passed all 3 for the advanced. For the standard, it would have been 1, 1, 1, and 1 other. So this is a pretty big change, which you might not be aware of if this is your first student in high school. And again, we're just figuring out what this is going to mean. I'm excited. I think it's going to be really positive. Our teachers always do good things with what's in front of them as it is, but I think we might have a little bit more wiggle room now. Yes?
Do they wait until the end of the high school graduation for the diploma, or once they reach those standards, they get the diploma?
The diploma is what is awarded to them when they've completed all 4 years and they're walking across that stage. Now, they don't get the actual diploma. That would be extremely stressful for me and everybody else involved. They get the cover, but when they graduate, they get the diploma right after the ceremony.
Some colleges, they start applying when they're junior, right?
When they're going to start looking at colleges, we especially the junior year, but you're applying as a senior. Yeah.
But they don't get their degree awarded until
This is that you've completed everything and you need to go all the way through high school. You don't get the diploma until you graduate. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually just the first part of it. I chunked it so it wasn't super small. I get it. It's big news. Fortunately, I think it's really positive. So it's not just those core courses, right? You also still have to take 2 credits of PE, regardless of your diploma. The world language requirement is specific to the advanced studies diploma. Okay, so, and this kind of description of advanced versus standard, we have the titles. I'm talking about a lot of details with them right now. The reality is you could have a student that had everything the exact same for advanced studies, but maybe they only took like 2 years of one language and then decided to focus in other areas of advanced science. They would officially get a standard diploma, but that transcript is still extremely rigorous. Okay, so I'm talking because this is how I need to describe it. But there are many colleges out there. Not every county, not every state has advanced standard. This is, Loudoun County Public Schools. Please know that there's individualization. You're going to pick the schedule that's best for your student, and the bottom line is how well they do in the classes they've selected. The Advanced Studies Diploma, if your student is thinking of a 4-year college, the Advanced Studies Diploma is going to guarantee that they've met anything that 4-year could say. I want to see 4 years of English. I want to see 4 years of science. I want you to have a world language degree. So these requirements are set in place so that I'm on track. I've checked every box. Now how you do in those classes, which level you take, those are those different individualizations. The standard diploma by no means counts you out of the 4-year college game. It just says, I want more flexibility with my electives. I'm going to focus during high school. So we have options, but I'm going to lay out what those guidelines are. And please know that every year your student meets with your counselor to pick their classes. They're going over their track for graduation. They're saying, okay, here's what you need for the diploma you're on track for. Let's look at what this would look like down the road. What do you think your core courses you might pick down the road are? So this is never going to be an end of the year, are you good? No. Okay, this is every year. They're having that conversation. Your student will bring home a plan of what they're going to take for those 4 years. And that can change every year. That's fine. But this is something we are very cognizant of. We want you all to be as families. I want to give you the outlines. I don't want you to stress out about it. Your students will be on track for graduation. We'll take care of them. But I want you to know what the guidelines are. Question?
What are the electives?
We're going to go over that.
Okay.
Yep.
And the history says standard 4 units. That means they have to take all or any of the middle school history counts.
No, no middle.
All 4 years they have to have a history.
Yep, for the advanced. Yeah. So then we talked about the world language, and that is again specific to the advanced studies diploma, which by no means means that if you're on track for a standard, you can't dabble in the world languages. Absolutely, we have that flexibility. But world language, you can meet that requirement 2 ways. You can take 2 years of one and 2 years of another, or you can take 3 years of one. Now, I will say that many 4-year colleges like to see that language carried out throughout that high school career. So even if your student has taken languages at Harper Park and they can officially be done freshman year, we would highly encourage you to consider keeping that in there because we do know that colleges are looking for it. Fine arts or career and technical ed, you need 1 credit for the advanced studies. As the standard does not have the world language requirement, we need you to have 2 credits of a sequential world language, either 2 world language, fine arts, career and tech sequence there. Everybody's going to need the economics and personal finance credit. We schedule you all for that, typically junior year. AP Econ does take the place of that if you choose not to take the half year. Again, that's nitty gritty that you're going to be talking about down the road. Nothing to stress about right now. And then additional electives. Now, if you think, let's do a little math here in the morning, right? You have 7 credits per year, right? So let's say your student took no high school credits in middle school. They just took middle school classes, which is absolutely okay. They come in, they take 7 credits, which is a normal full load each year. How many are they going to finish with at the end of 4 years? 7, 14, 28. Okay? Take a look at the total number required. Okay, so that total number is nothing to stress about. Okay, that's going to fall into place naturally if your student is taking a full load, and many students graduate with more than they're required. Anything that doesn't, go directly to those requirements I talked about is considered an elective. If your student takes a 5th math, a 6th math, those are elective credits. It goes into that total count. So please don't stress about that total number. Your students get that. And then, of course, we have fine print.
Can you go back to that?
That'll be in the program of studies. The virtual course requirement. I want to talk about that. That is something that is built into the required econ and personal finance class, okay? So that's nothing, everybody doesn't have to rush out and sign up for virtual Loudon. You may choose that as an option at some point, but that requirement, the county has rolled that into the curriculum so that is one that you can just say, yep, we're good. Good.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So with the languages, for example, if my son's going into German 3, the German class is offered at such a level that he could continue it for 4 years.
So he could do German 3, German 4, German 5, which actually we're going to be able to offer at the dual enrolled level because our teacher is qualified.
That's awesome.
And then AP German.
And what's dual enrollment?
Dual enrollment, so I feel like this is on your mind, so let me address it. You're not going to have the option for next year. Let me just put that out there, okay? But so you know what it is and what we're talking about. There are 2 ways that your students can earn college credit during their high school career. One, which has been around since the beginning of time, it feels like is AP classes. That's the one you're probably most familiar with. Unless you're from a different part of the country, then it's DE. But AP courses, that's run by College Board. Those are the ones where the teachers teach to prepare the students directly for the AP exam, which comes into play in May. So they have to cover specifics of the curriculum. They have to prepare those students for that exam in May. And then the way that you get the college credit through an AP course is that you have to pay for and sit for that exam, and you have to score well enough that the college you're interested in is going to say, yep, I'll accept that score. And typically that is 4 or 5s are pretty safe. 3s for some of them. It really depends on the college, but you have to score well on that exam. So that's how you can get college credit through AP courses. So it's a college course taught within the high school. The other option, which you're probably hearing more about, seeing more about, Heritage has one of the largest offerings of dual enrolled classes, which we're pretty proud of because you can only offer a dual enrolled class if your faculty is specifically certified to do it, which involves having a master's in the specific content area, which involves a certain number of credit hours. So our highly qualified teachers are specifically qualified in these areas, which makes them eligible to teach it because they have to officially be part of the NOVA staff as well as Heritage. So the dual enrolled classes, it's a different way to get that college credit. There's no exam at the end. It's a college course, again, taught in Heritage, in our halls, in our classrooms by our teachers. But the dual enrolled curriculum, they get a chance to kind of scaffold a bit more. They get to teach through the entire year. They don't have to stop at May. They can go all the way to the last week and know that I have this time to cover the curriculum to get all my students to that mastery of the knowledge. They can maybe start a little slower and then pick up. They have to follow the curriculum that NOVA places in front of them, and that does look a little different for different DE classes. We offer an AP/DE biology. This is our first year offering it. My years are kind of jumbling, but so that course is preparing them not only for the AP exam, but it's also following that dual enrollment biology curriculum. Now, what you need to get savvy about, ask the questions, that is not just an intro science course in college. That is the first science course in college for students aiming to be science majors. So it is no joke. So each DE kind of carries its own characteristics, and so you need to understand the difference between a physics DE You could take physics DE and then go on and take AP physics. We're getting in the weeds here. This is a lot of detail. You'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Let me get back to what DE is, okay? DE is the opportunity to get a college credit during the whole year at Heritage. There's no exam at the end. Your credit is tied to being able to get a C or better in the class. And the majority of those classes, they're 2 college semesters put together. It's 3 credits and 3 credits. You leave with 6 college credits for that class. And physics, for example, yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity, is 8 credits.
Okay.
So, you know, and the county has, as I talked about, yes, absolutely, that's a money saver.
Is this
That's awesome. We can borrow
offered
it.
to freshmen or?
We don't have DE classes available to freshmen.
Okay.
No, you know, and
It's more
these are the
junior,
same
senior.
classes. You know, you wouldn't want your freshmen walking around the halls of Nova, so they're not ready for them. The absolute earliest you would be eligible to take a class, and that would be if you're on a super accelerated track, is really sophomore year, and we even have to fill out special paperwork for sophomores. It's a sophomore exception. It's typically juniors and seniors. So the bump, you know, as I said, you all, actually our current sophomores and younger, for DE classes, they get the equivalent bump to an AP class, which has not always been the case in the county, which I feel really reflects kind of the acknowledgement that these are all college level
Is it just
courses.
as hard?
Yes, if you talk to current students, you'll know that as well. Now, I'm going to answer the question then because we're talking transferability of credits. You also want to think about how your application looks to colleges. The Virginia colleges are also kind of getting on the same page. They have to get on the same page to say, we're all going to accept this for this credit, this for this credit. There's the other piece of what they're looking for in an applicant. And I will say that the vast majority of Virginia schools will view them exactly the same. However, you always want to refer to the specific school. You know, there are some specific schools, you know, UVA has historically been one that's just super comfortable with APs. And they might say, you know what, we'll take a look at that. We recognize that as a rigorous option. But sometimes they still tip their hat to the AP. You know, we're going to give you as much information as we have, but you're always going to want to go specifically to the college that you're interested in. Now, having said that, remember it's a balance. It's a cumulative effect of your schedule. So if you, your student wants to focus on, you know, these specific areas, well, the DE is that kind of scaffolding option that we didn't have before. So maybe before it was AP or academic, well, now they've got a DE option, which is still challenging, still shows rigor on your application, but it gives them a different pace to get there. So I feel like it's a real positive thing, and the county has recognized the equivalency of it by giving it the 1.0 bump as well. Okay, question?
The chart, initial chart that we got for the course selection,
Yes.
doesn't have any of the DE.
That's right.
or anything.
You're not going to be allowed to take them freshman year. What you got was
No, but
specific
I
to
mean,
ninth
for
graders.
to plan out how they want to.
Oh, the plan? Yep, we only got into, you can take courses at different levels. You know, so for example, English 12. You can get an English 12, check off that credit by taking AP Lit, by taking English 12 DE, by taking English 12 Academic. We just streamlined it to say, you need to get this credit. Those are levels of how you can attain the credit. So it would have been a book if we had included it. Question?
As far as AP diploma, would the dual enrollment count towards AP diploma, or
So
you
the
have
thing-
to have passed the AP class to get the AP diploma?
The thing to remember with our diplomas is it doesn't matter what level of the course you take. So it's that credit that's associated with it. So for example, the example I just gave of AP Lit is an English 12 credit. English 12 Academic is an English 12 credit for the diploma. English 12 dual enrollment checks the box for the English 12 credit. So our diplomas are based on the credit, not the level. So that's the difference. Okay. Okay. So I do want to talk about expunging. This is your only opportunity to do it. There are a few things that this county gets on the exact same page about, black and white. This is one of them. Okay, so we mentioned your opportunity for having taken high school credits in middle school. Those are those maths and the world languages. We recognize that your student kind of went above and beyond. They wanted to give it a shot. They're middle schoolers. That's why you have this option to say, you know what, we're going to try it again in high school. But you only get this option now. So what that looks like, If you choose to expunge a high school credit taken in middle school, and those are the only credits that are going to be on your high school transcript, you know, your, I'm not well versed in middle school courses other than these, but any of those other middle school courses, they're done. You know, they're on your middle school transcript. But in our world, in your GPA application to college, it's only the high school credits you took in middle school and your high school credits. So if you decide that, you know what, my student took Algebra 1, it was okay. They took geometry, it was okay. I think I want to give it another shot. This is your chance. You can choose to expunge it. It does not show up on the transcript. It's like it didn't exist. It's not counted towards your GPA, but you also don't get credit. So if your student passed that, but they got a B, but you decide, you know what, they're more mature now, they can do better now, I'm going to take it off, give them another shot. So I would encourage you to really have that conversation, because a B's not that bad. But, you know, if they got lower than that and you're just not comfortable with that being the start off for the GPA, that's your prerogative, okay? They took it as a middle schooler. You have the option to decide, we're going to redo. So if that's the case, you don't get the credit. It's not counted towards the GPA, not shown in the transcript. You need to fill out that paperwork. You're going to get an expunge form sent home with the final report card. So you need to be on the lookout for that. You need to fill that out. You need to return it by August 15th. After that, the window's closed. Okay? Again, this is the only opportunity you get to do it. There's no opportunity to do a mulligan or a take back once you're in high school. Okay? So consider that. Yeah?
Are the middle schoolers being advised by counselors, maybe a math teacher, saying, recommend maybe taking this one again, expunge?
I think their
Or-
teacher would be a wonderful resource. You know, because you're going to see what grade they come home with. You're going to know what it felt like for them to complete that homework. Were they whizzing through independently, no issues? Was it a struggle? You know, how comfortable are they really with that knowledge base? And I would encourage you to talk to their current teacher and really get a good idea.
Susie, they've had those conversations. The recommendations are in there, and you can see if your child's being recommended to repeat. And if they are, the teacher should have contacted you and talked to your child about it. So that those conversations can continue.
Yeah, he said she talked to him, but I'm not always 100% on what he's saying, so.
And you can always take another pulse, you know, as you get to the end of the year if you're one of those, you know, on the border.
If you took like 3 high school classes of math in middle school, and you've done okay, and maybe your middle one, geometry, wasn't exactly what you thought it should be, if you've gone up to Algebra 2 Trig, and now you're going into into high school with those 3, but you really don't like your geometry grade, can you go out of sequence and take geometry?
Yeah, you
Okay.
could.
You can do
Now,
that.
you
Okay.
want to think about that.
Yeah.
Because you got that momentum with the algebra
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
and geometry is one of those, that cousin,
out of the
that
box.
kind of, you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's super important for, you know, some specific careers.
Yeah.
But as far as the next classes in the sequence, you know, you think about pre-cal, AP Calc, those are really algebra based. So there's geometry on the SATs. You know, it's not a throwaway by any means, but it's kind of a tangent. Okay, so you can, you know, you might want to have a more in-depth conversation to see, if I do this, should I maybe take it over the summer again? You know, so they're not taking a whole year off
Yeah.
that momentum of algebra.
Because I was encouraged not to do that, because it's like repeating the same class again as a ninth grade and 8th grade. If you're getting a B, it is okay, and you know, in a geometry class, but it's tough with the advanced maths, like knowing where to.
Yeah, and I'm
This is
gonna
all
go
new to
over.
us.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. And you guys
It's
have
tough.
really good questions. I appreciate how involved you are in this process, really, because you know, your students are really fortunate to have you.
Yeah.
So I am going to talk about if we can get, I'm going to talk about the 9th grade levels. I'm going to talk about the math sequence and kind of some of the pros and cons of that track you take, because it's not just 9th grade. You're setting up for a plan. Okay, so sample freshman schedule, right? They're going to take an English 9 at whatever level they choose, a math, either earth science at one level, or research biology, and we're going to talk about that. World history, geography to 1500. If you have older students that have been through, this is our old world history 1. Okay, this is the freshman level. Next year it might be different. Health PE 9, A world language, if you know right off the bat your student is planning on doing that advanced studies diploma. And I will say that you can still get it even if you decide that they're not ready for that. You know, if your student really needs that year to mature, they could fit in 3, sophomore, junior, senior. But typically a world language if you're on that track to keep that momentum. An elective and a study hall. And we have Pride Time, which is kind of sort of our homeroom. It's our advisory. And your students are going to be grouped into groups of about 12 to 15. Every licensed member at Heritage, every licensed faculty member at Heritage has a Pride Time group. We meet every Wednesday for about 25 minutes. It's mixed grade levels. We keep the same group. The idea is that, you know, that's a group of students your student may never have, you know, gotten a chance to meet and learn from before. It's another trusted adult that they not know in the building. We do some character education in those classes, talk about different things. So that is something that we value, and that is 20 minutes every Wednesday. Okay, so let's talk about those first levels, okay? And what I'm giving you right now, number one, this presentation we'll put on our webpage, okay? But also, our course information page at Heritage, we've worked really hard to make that a really good resource for you all. Everything from the departments, all of the descriptions of the courses, the elective videos that our teachers made, it's all posted there. The presentation from the 31st, if you weren't able to make it, it's going up there today, you know, so we're going to put everything there. So as you digest this, you know, if you're like, what did she say about that? You can go and look. And we encourage students to do that as well. So English 9, you're going to be able to take that class at the academic or the honors level. Okay, there are 2 options. Both of them count for the English 9 credit. You can see the difference, and this is from our English department here. Okay, so this is straight from horse's mouth. The difference there, the focus is the same. Reading, writing, research, vocab, both have to meet SOL competencies to ready you for those reading and writing SOLs in junior year. The academic class is going to be working on basic writing skills. They're going to reinforce that. The honors level, they're going to be expecting a mastery of basic writing skills when you come in, and they're going to work towards advanced complex writing skills. It's an increased rigor at the honors. It's a faster pace. There's more independent learning expected for that. Because of that, it's a 0.5 bump, as you'll get with any honors class. And look at the difference in homework. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, cumulative effect. Okay, you can expect 1.1 to 1.5 hours per class of homework for honors, about 30 for academic. The honors not only has the normal summative assessments, but also a year-long honors common assessment portfolio that the students have to make. Okay, so this is what you're going to consider for that. And also, does your student like English? You know, do they like English and reading? What's their level of motivation? How difficult is their overall course load? Okay, so take that into consideration. I will say that the English courses, although you won't see the words pre-AP in any of them, that English department, they are locked in, and each year prepares you for the next year, so that if you're expecting, if you want to take the AP Lang and AP Lit, they're going to get you ready. So, you know, that's what that honors class looks like. Question?
If say for instance a child took English 9 honor, and he or she had a B plus, with the 0.5 bump, would it show like a A or just the D?
Good question. Good question. No. Okay. So the letter grade is always the letter grade. Okay. That doesn't change. You were in a C in the class. That C is on your transcript. That bump comes into play with the numerical calculation of the GPA. Okay. So we're going to try not to get into the weeds with this again, but just an overall GPA lesson here. You know, you probably heard, they're a 4.0 student. Well, where that comes from is that's the quality of points associated with an A. Every letter grade has a quality point associated with it. And your GPA is a fraction. So each class that you take that final grade, if they get an A, they get 4 quality points in the numerator. If they get a B, it's 3. A C, it's 2. And a D is 1. You get nothing for an F. So that's now there's all the different versions. If it's an A plus, it's 4.3. You know, if it's an A plus and an honors, that's where that 0.5 bump comes into. Okay, so if it's an A plus in any kind of class, it's 4.3. If it's an A plus and an honors, instead of the 4.3 in the numerator, it's 4.3 plus 0.5, it's 4.8, which makes that overall GPA higher. Because you're going to add all of those final cumulative quality points together and divide it by the number of credits that you took. Okay? So that's where you see that. And it's down in the bottom left hand of that transcript, which is your GPA, and as a senior year rank. That's where that comes into play. But you get what you get. You earn a C, you have a C. That's the letter grade on your transcript, which is why this class choice is so important, because we will say that sometimes colleges, because we have all of these bumps and changes and everything, they'll recalculate. So they're going to look at what letter grade did your student get in what level of rigor. So all that stays in mind. So a bump is not sufficient of a decision factor to make your choices.
Is it true that it's because some colleges don't take the weighted, that's called the weighted GPA?
Yes.
Some just look straight on at the GPA without the weight?
Yeah, some
Depends,
will recalculate.
So-
You know, and we've had different versions of this, and some are like, forget it, we're doing our own thing. You got an A, this is what I'm gonna do with it. You know, you got an honors class, great, we're showing rigor. You know, so
Yeah.
just keep it in mind. You know, that again, that should not be what you base your determination on. So that's English. Okay, math. Right? Everybody got this? You got it memorized? And we have a new class added in there, which wasn't even, you know, we're piloting it, which I'm really excited about. It's a college prep calculus, so we have an option for just the AP calculus, which is great. The big thing I want you guys to look at and kind of get on this is, you know, if your student, if they're taking those most accelerated levels, right? Let's say they're going to take Algebra 2 Trig as a freshman. Let me tell you what that track looks like if you take the highest possible, right? They're a freshman, Algebra 2 Trig. That's geared to prepare you for math analysis. Well, math analysis is all of pre-cal plus the first part of AP Calc AB, all in 1 year, okay? They're a sophomore. That's preparing them for a junior year class of AP Calc BC, which is the highest AP Calc level out there. So here we are senior year, they're taking multivariable, which is only offered at the college level, dual enrollment. Many of our students, we only have a few that are certified to take this in the county. Our students Skype in with freedom, okay? That is what you can expect if you are trying to take that most accelerated track, okay? That's where they will end up. And the reason this is so important to understand is that it's not just about next year. It's how you're setting your student up for the rest of that. Now, do they have the chance to drop down if they need to? Yes. But take a look at what happens. Let's say they're going to start with geometry as a freshman. Well, after geometry is Algebra 2, right? They're a sophomore, they're in Algebra 2. Algebra 2 prepares you for pre-calculus as a junior. You're ending up your senior year in high school in AP Calculus AB, which is a fabulous course. And colleges appreciate that, they respect it. So, you know, there are some kids that this is the appropriate track. You know, they know math is their thing. They're absolutely going on that track. It doesn't stress them out, that level of rigor. But if that is not the case, we have found in our counseling offices, the teachers have found in their classrooms that that is a really big challenge for students to be on that track. Often it involves some dropbacks, a higher level of stress. Often their other classes suffer if that pace is not a good match. But what I want you to hear is that even if you take more of a steady Eddie pace, you're going to get to a really high level either way, and they might enjoy it more. You know, sometimes kids will burn out if that pace doesn't match where they are in their motivation and in their skills. You all are the experts on your kids, you're going to know what that looks like, but I want to encourage you to understand it's really the big picture. And that big picture is probably better than you're thinking if you choose to slow down that pace, okay? And they might do better across the board in their other classes, okay? So I want you to keep all that in mind. Question?
If a child is taken algebra to trigonometry and the recommendation came out as math analysis or pre-calculus, then they would be taking calculus A, B, and BC, and then what they would be doing in senior. Some people told me like if they drop, not take anything in the senior,
Which is not good.
They'll make them, college would make them retake the calculus.
I mean, that, you know, the burnout that I talked about, you just have to know that the expectation if you take that track is that they're continuing on to the upper levels all the way, and they're more than likely going to take multivariable, or they're going to say, I can't, I'm done, and they might take AP Stats, which is an AP course, you know, that's fine, You know, or oftentimes we're in the counseling office with you all trying to encourage them, no, you have to take a math senior year. We know you're tired. You need to put a math in your schedule. So I just want you all to have this up front, okay, so you can make really good decisions, have those family conversations. And our math department chair did a really good job of kind of a choose your own adventure, you know, and that's all linked on our course info page as well, which I'll show you. Science, this is another one that, you know, math specifically, science, we have some of these conversations as well. You need to know how the choices you make as freshmen affect what your options are, because it does really streamline you. So your option as a freshman, earth science academic, earth science research, which is honors, you know, or biology only at the research level. Okay, so, you know, earth science research versus academic, you choose what the best pace is for your student. If your student, you all, you're thinking, you know, I'm going to start at biology research, here's what you need to know. You are just about guaranteeing that your student is probably going to be taking multiple AP Science classes during their time at Heritage because they're not going to have other options. And if that is your student's jam, if that is what they like, you know, they are science, they love it, they're really good at it, it is not a stressful thing for you all at home when they're taking those courses, then that may be the appropriate case. But what you need to do is kind of think that out. So if you're taking biology research as a freshman, right, your next class as a sophomore is chemistry. Well, number one, they're also going to have to be advanced in math, which means they're probably also taking really advanced math courses. Okay, so right off the bat, you got a solid math and science course load sophomore year. So then we move this over here. So then, you know, they're 11th grade, they're probably taking physics. They might choose to take DE, which is the, you know, the accelerated physics level. So senior year, they're taking an AP Science, one way or another, unless they choose to take environmental, which really with the rigor that they've done is, it's an awesome class, it's great curriculum, but that rigor level is then lower if they choose not to take the AP Science level senior year. Okay, also, late breaking news here, we are offering AP Environmental for the first time next year, which we're really excited about. And if that is an area, you know, the science isn't all the mathy science, you know, and the prerequisite for that is earth science. So things to consider as you're planning out your schedule, you just want to keep in mind what that's going to look like, big picture, as you plan. Also, if you choose to take research biology as a freshman, know that you're going to have to cover some ground independently on your own prior to that class, because they have not had the intro to research that comes with earth science research, so they're going to have to recoup that before going in order to be successful. Yes?
For the physics, BE physics, that means they are directly going to the, BE is a college physics, right? And they directly, didn't see anything in 9th grade, 10th grade, it's senior and junior.
Yeah, that's junior, senior year.
So they do okay with no.
So, I mean, they need to take those classes, they have to have solid math skills, you know. So you want to keep that in mind too. Okay, and again, I'll post this. Okay, social sciences, right? So your choices for freshman year are academic world history to 1500, again, that's our world history 1. The advanced level there is called pre-AP. So we have about 5 different names for honors, but this is the honors level, pre-AP. And that is very much designed to get you prepared for the AP world as a sophomore. So that curriculum is going to have, you know, this practice. They're going to practice the DBQs that they'll see as a sophomore. With that, it comes with the 0.5 GPA bump. The goal of that is to have time tests by the end of the year. You can expect 60 to 75 minutes of homework between blocks for this class. Okay? Now, a word about that. If you feel like that balance for the cumulative effect of the schedule is not appropriate to put that in right here, that doesn't preclude your student, that doesn't keep them from taking AP World as a sophomore, or from taking AP US, AP Human Geography, AP Government, you know, in later years. We don't track, okay? So each year, we get to discuss what's best for your student. And so, you know, this doesn't count them out from taking APs and social sciences later on. Okay, so all this information, right, your resources linked on the Heritage webpage under course selection information. So the way you can get there is on the main page under parent resources under site shortcuts on the right hand side. and it's called Course Selection Information. Okay, so you can go, you can review, you can pull it up, look at it with your students. All right, so all of that is there. All of the department chairs, again, created presentations. That's linked there, and the course info night in full is there, so you can kind of fast forward to the sections that you really need to hear again. And again, June 20th, okay, is your deadline for making these final good decisions, and letting us know of any changes to what you originally picked. Okay, we have a plethora of support in other areas. It's not just academics, but just some things for, read our emails, listen to, Mr. Adam does a great job with the weekly updates. There's a ton out there, and you can decide what you need as far as supports, but just to know that counseling department's going to offer, as you get to those different stages, we're going to offer those workshops to prepare you for the college search, to help you make sure you're on and using Naviance, to talk about the nitty-gritties of applying to college. We have financial aid night, we have apprenticeship night. I'm focusing a lot on the four-year college because it directly relates to those diploma requirements. That's not the only choice out there. We have wonderful opportunities. We want to make sure you all know about it. So we are the host for the county of apprenticeship night, and we're very proud of that. And our Career Center is a wonderful place to get more information about colleges, jobs, everything. And the county has different resources as well. I don't know if you've maybe popped into the college fair already, but that is every year, typically the last Sunday in September. I find that if you go early and often, freshman, sophomore, junior year, it becomes less stressful. You kind of know what to expect. You can kind of dip your toe in the water so your kid's not freaking out by the time that it's later on. And then those conversations change because they figure out what they're really looking for. But it just exposes them to that. So I encourage you all to take advantage. There are tons of opportunities. If you're ever not sure where to turn for anything, talk to your student's counselor. And they're a good resource for that. Some dates to know. Rising 9th grade night. And you will also be on the lookout for Ms. Harper's going to push it out to you all. I want to know, because we have done the course info night, which we opened up for you all for the first time, which we loved. We got a good showing from you. Obviously, you're here as well. We want to know what other information you feel like you need. So we're going to send out a survey to you all, so I can make sure that I address that for that night as well, or recover what we need to. So be on the lookout for that. That is March 7th. That's at our place at Heritage in the auditorium.
Is this for just parents or kids too?
It's for both. It's for both.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are other student opportunities as well. So your students are going to be coming to Heritage during the school day in a field trip, which is fun. They're in our halls. They're getting used to the place. Tuesday, March 13th. So you'll probably hear them talking about that. That's when they come over for their student orientation and school tour during the day. And then athletics, their night is a little bit later in the year. It's May 9th at 7 p.m. That's at your all's place, Harper Park Auditorium. Okay, so you'll hear from Mr. Rogers, talk about the philosophy, physicals, paperwork, the nitty-gritty, because those fall sports start before school starts. So if that's something you're interested in, and I would encourage you to consider it, it's a great way to learn faces, learn the building, learn the layout. We find that it really decreases stress levels because they're familiar with it then coming in. That is May 9th at 7 p.m. And for our back to school celebration, your students will be coming there. This is the first year we implemented a separate kind of 9th grade orientation. I think they did a scavenger hunt this year. We'll do something similar that year, this coming year again. Just another way for your students to get familiar with the building, see faces, and learn a little bit more to help with that transition. Also, I don't have a slide up there, but shameless plug, our our spring play is coming up in April. We're doing Beauty and the Beast. Our school just does a wonderful job with those plays. Another opportunity to sneak your kids in the building, get them comfortable with the layout prior to them actually being members of the Pride. All right, so you guys, again, had great questions. Thank you so much for coming. We hope we'll see you again at some of those other opportunities, and I'm going to stick around for a little bit if you have further questions.
I have a question. For the athletics, so is it only the fall coaches can be there, or will also like
No.